Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satchidananda Rupaya Vishvotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishna Yavayam Namaha. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mami Hari Priye. Okay, I'll divide the invocation lines. Janmadyasya yatonvayati taraha Janmadyasya yatonvayati taraha Arteshvabhignaswarat Arteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Yatsurayaha Tejo Varimridam Yatha Vinimayo Varimridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Sargo Mrisha Dhamna Swena Sada Nirastakuhakam Swena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Baram Dhimahi Baram Dhimahi Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Nam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Yon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kim Vaparerishvaraha Erishvaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudhyate Trakritipihi Rudhyate Trakritipihi Shru Shubhistakshanat Shubhitakshanat Nigamakalpatoror Galitam Phalam Garitam Phalam Shukamukat Amrita Dravasanyutam Kat Amrita Dravasanyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka exercise my eyes. My neck. That's fine, whichever way. Adios. Thank you all for coming. So, we left off last time with the liberation of the two Guyakas, the two sons of Kubera, who had become the two trees, Arjuna trees, in the yard of Bhagavan, Sri Krishna. And there's a few points, actually, I want to go back to, that some added points on that story, as well as one or two others. I think I hadn't mentioned in the story of Mother Yashoda tying Bhagavan up to the mortar. I mentioned that the mortar shape represents time, right? And that the Supreme can't be conditioned by time or space or object. But also, did I mention the ropes? With guna also means ropes. So Bhagavan can't be bound by the gunas. And therefore also meaning our concepts, right? Because we have various concepts of God also. And those concepts can help us to develop devotion, right? But he's beyond all name, form, quality, etc. So, guna, ropes. And another thing, I suddenly remembered during the week that I forgot to mention with Shakatasur, that it is said that he was the son, or a son, of Hiranyaksha. Now, I don't know if he was, he was living all those thousands of years, but anyway, the point is that he was extremely powerful, strong, and he had pride in his strength, his body. You see these, what do you call it? The workout. Anyway, he's very, very powerful, and he had pride in that. And once when he was passing through the ashram of Lomasha Rishi, for some reason he began chopping down all the trees, because he wanted to show his great strength. And Lomasha Rishi cursed him because he was destroying other entities' bodies, because the tree form is the body of that jiva entity. So he was cursed to become inert. So as he was, apparently his regular form was kind of dissolving, and he begged for forgiveness. Then Loma Rishi said, "Don't worry, you will be, you will be in the property of the Lord himself, and his touch, the touch of his body, will release you from your body consciousness." I mean, that's a point that's made for actually all the asuras who are, who Bhagavan touches, or even his feet touch. So his body liberates us, not as just his body, his remembrance releases us from body consciousness. And that reminds me of another true story. I can't resist telling you. I heard Swamini Akhilananda tell this story. She's in Miami. A true story of Swami Vivekananda. I'll tell it briefly as I can. Swami Vivekananda ji was somewhere here in the West, in the U.S., and he was going to be giving a talk. He was staying at someone's home, or big house, and he was upstairs. Previous to the talk, there were people gathering downstairs, right, to hear him. He was upstairs, and he had been in such a high state of meditation. He was praying to come down to body consciousness. Okay? And he was late and late for coming down, and they didn't know why. They didn't want to go up and disturb him. Finally, he comes out of his room, and there's a devotee who's sitting on the stairway, the stairs going down, because, you know, I think he was the house owner there, and waiting to kind of escort him. And Swami Vivekananda, as he was coming down the steps, his, what do you call it, dhoti, brushed against the devotee, and the devotee went out of body consciousness. So that he had to try to come down to body consciousness, and he did to the extent that he could walk and be conscious of other people. But his very touch elevated that devotee into beyond body consciousness, which is just so amazing beings. Another point, and I do want to mention this book, which everyone would love. It is by Swami Jyotirmayananda. He's from Shivananda ashram, right? But his ashram is in Miami. He's in his 80s now. Fantastic. On the symbolism and the you know, what we get from these stories. Amazing. And so another point he makes about Mother Yashoda's vision that she gets. Notice that it comes immediately after the Trinavarta story. Trinavarta, huh? Who came as the whirlwind? Yeah? So he says, as we mentioned this the other time, that Trinavarta represents the, you know, wind of, or tornado of desires that arise from materialism. And Vikshepa, as he defines it, Vikshepa. So he says after Vikshepa has been removed, or at least, you know, sublimated for some, you know, at least some time, and spiritual consciousness yawns in us, like Bhagavan did, huh? In Mother Yashoda's arms. Spiritual consciousness yawns, means begins in us. We can get a glimpse of that cosmic consciousness, and that all the universe is within us. Isn't that? He comments on all the leelas, like, and a lot of the things I'm telling you also are from him as well. So he says, you experience the staggering possibility of the entire universe within your consciousness. And on the Guhyakas, I wanted to add we spoke of the curse of a rishi, and so Narada Rishi had cursed them to become trees, but he actually, that became blessing, because what did he showed them that, remember, their pride was in wealth. And I wanted to mention that, you know, it's not wealth that is a problem, it's the pride of wealth, right? The arrogance. And so Narada Rishi's blessing curse actually blessed them to realize that Narayana is the real wealth. Bhagavan means the one who is possessed of all wealth and everything else. Right? So, another beautiful, and that whatever that curse is a fulfillment, actually, fulfillment for that jiva. All right. So, and the Guhyakas had, when they had arisen out of the trees, and then they praised Bhagavan in this beautiful hymn. And then the Lord says to them, as he was still tied to the mortar, and he speaks to them with a smile. Now, I'm wondering whether he actually spoke words, or because he was very, very little. But they must have heard the words, right? Because spirit, consciousness, God speaks to us, not necessarily outside, right? But we hear inside. So he says, I have already known how you who had lost your good sense, etc., etc., which was in effect only a blessing. And he said, even the very sight of holy people whose minds are always at peace and who have wholehearted surrender to me, even the sight of them will remove the bondage of samsara, just as the light of or sight of the sun removes the darkness and enables the eyes to see. And he says, live a life now of devotion and surrender to me. And he said, as desired by you, love of me which puts an end to man's samsara is already generated in you. So, generated in them, and so now go back to serve him in the heavenly realms. They circumambulated the Lord and ascended. Now, somewhere it says that Bhagavan made it so that the sound of the trees falling, the crash, that he made that sound come a slightly bit later. So that he had time to interact with the Guhyakas. And so when the Gopas, were off doing their work, they hear this crashing sound like thunder, like lightning. And they run there, as always, and they can't understand, again, why these two huge trees have fallen, and there's baby Krishna still tied to the mortar. And again, the little boys, little children who are nearby say, he did it, The trees have been felled by this Krishna, dragging the mortar between the trees. And it says that most of the grown-ups didn't believe it. That's impossible. Come on. But there were a few. Well, they weren't quite sure because all these miraculous things had been happening. So they're starting to get a feeling this little Krishna is normal. And Nanda Maharaj runs up to him, smiles, and releases him releases him from the mortar, and Shukadev says, oh, what an exquisite irony. Nanda releasing him who releases all. And Bhagavan, that's what he loves, He loves to play with us like that. And one Mahatma says that he will play with us when we see that and feel that we're always interacting with him, talking to him. I know somebody who, she's always talking to God, even when she's crossing the street. Bhagavan is whatever she's American, so I don't know what word she uses, God, or her guru, is it okay to go? It's always talking in simple ways. But that's how, we develop that devotion and feeling that he's with me right now. He's the one doing everything. So, and then Shukadev describes, I hope they can hear, his little Leelas as he's still very small, and he dances for the gopis whenever they want to see him dance. And just like a simple-minded child, and he sings when they want him to sing, just like a push-button doll, Shukadev says, under their control. And the gopis would ask him, Krishna, go get that chair, go get that cushion, go get that. And he would readily run and do that. But if something was too heavy, he would try. And if he couldn't, he would leave it there and go like that. And they would just laugh because everything he did gave joy, right? And amusement to everyone. Revealing thus to the wise ones the truth that he subordinates himself to his devotees, the Lord delighted the inhabitants of Raja with his childish plays and behavior. And there was a fruit seller who would every day, come into the village and say, buy fruits, buy fruits. And little Krishna once ran out with he got some, a little parched rice in his tiny, tiny hand. And he ran out that he wanted to buy some fruits. And even by the time he got to the fruit seller, most of them had fallen out of his little hand. And with the fruit seller, she was so blissed out, to see him, to be able to touch his hand, to receive that. He who is the Phaladhata, the giver of the fruits of all actions, went to buy fruits from the fruit seller. And then he would run inside with the fruits. She would pile them up into his little arms. He would run inside. And then she'd look back at her basket. It was full of jewels, gold. So Bhagavan just wants us to let go of our doership and our anxiety, in our actions. We renounce the fruits, meaning it really means the doership or non-attachment to the results. And he gives us everything that we need. We have everything we need to, in the moment. I may not have right now what I will need in a year or 5 years, but when that time comes, with that trust, right? When I get there, and I'm in that attitude of attunement with him and his will, it will come. It will come. Yep. That's the secret of Gita, Bhagavatam. So, this beautiful story of the fruit seller. Now, another day, Sri Krishna and Balaramji was playing with the other cowherd boys, and they're playing by the banks of Yamunaji, Kalindi. And Mother Rohini went out to call them both back to come eat their lunch. And of course, they were acting as if they couldn't hear. Can't hear. They were involved in play, so children don't want to come in. And Rohini went to Yashodaji and asked her to come call them. Yashodaji went out. And now, Akandananji mentions here, this is the way to speak to children. Very sweet, it's not, but I know West Americans, right? I know American life. You all are wonderful, as far as I've seen, with your children. But this is so sweet, so gentle, so loving, not severity, and that would, because that creates friction and resistance, right? It's so beautiful. So she says, "Oh, Krishna darling, come and have a feed. Enough of play now. You must be hungry and weary. Oh, Rama dear, you're a good boy. You come too with your brother. You had your breakfast so early in the morning, but it is getting late for your next meal. Nandaji is awaiting your arrival so that he also can take food." No, come soon, and make us all happy. Oh, my sweet boy, you are bathed in dust. Take a bath and come, make yourself clean. Of course, she didn't say that, for she wanted to hug him first. So she speaks so sweetly, and of course, they come running to her, and she picks them up, takes them home. She bathes them, decorates them, and feeds them. So now, all these omens, these strange, dangerous things had been happening in Gokul, and one of the elder Gopas, Upananda, he was one of the leaders, and he said, too many things have been happening here, and these do not portend, good things for the future. And he said, we who are interested in the welfare of everyone in Gokul, and for our children, and this child who has somehow escaped, the wicked Putana and other demons, he said, let us leave this place with our children and all our dependents. Let us go to the forest of Vrindavan. I've heard that it's full of beautiful pastures, and it's be very congenial for us Gopas, Gopis, and our cattle. Beautiful hill land, grasslands, trees, creepers, all vegetation. And let us go there now. And so all the Gopas agreed to the idea. And see, the whole village was ready to leave for the sake of one child. So that amount of, care, love, and protection for even one child. So they all packed up everything on their carts. We could only fit everything we have on a little wooden cart. So how nice, how simple the life. Huh? And they actually even dressed up, and they had all their nice foods with them. They put on new clothes and garments and jewelry. And as they went in their carts, and Yashodaji, Rohimji, and Krishna, Balaram, and Nanda, and as they went, all the other people were singing songs that they had made up. And they were so happy. Their hearts were delighted. So whenever we are moving from one state to another in life, we just sing his glories. Our hearts will be delighted. And entering into Vrindavan, Rama, Balaramji, and Krishna just were overjoyed to see the beauty of the scenery, of the hills, Govardhan Hill, the river Yamunaji, and the pastures. And so they all settled there. And now Krishna and Balaram were around 5 years old or so. And they were old enough to take the calves out to pasture. How wonderful, huh? I think that's the answer to bringing up kids in modern day. Huh? If they have responsibility for something, they'll feel they're important, right? And that they have a skill, that they have. I remember reading, of course I'm sure this was true in every culture, earlier times, but I read it, for instance, in Jewish tradition in biblical times, which would be that unless the parents, or particularly the father, taught the son what would you say? A skill, the parent wouldn't feel that they had done their duty, Of course, in those times, that was the only thing to, yeah. So, yeah, but these things give children and youth particularly, a feeling of being valuable, being useful, etc. So they were tending these small calves, and sometimes they would be playing on their flutes, and all the cowherd boys, the gopas, would, kicking balls around with their the ankle bells on, and they would engage themselves in mock fights and bellowing like bulls. They would mimic the sounds of different animals, just playing like ordinary boys. And as they were playing one day, another demon, Asura, was sent by Kamsa, who took the form of a calf. So this Vatsasura, he could see that Sri Krishna and Balaramji loved the calves, right? And he thought they must be very attached to the calves. Right? So I'll come as a calf and mix in with all the others, and then I'll get them. But, so he took the form of a calf and mixed in with all the other calves. But Sri Krishna knows every calf by name. He knows us personally, every one of us. And he saw, because of course he sees beyond just the body form. He saw this was not part of it was an asura. And he pointed him out to Balaramji, and then went near the calf innocently, as if innocently. And he caught hold of the hind legs of that calf and it flew. He hurled him dead into the top of I think it's a wood apple tree. Kapita? Is that wood apple tree? Yeah. And because then, as he died, of course, his imaginary form, his disguise, fell away, and he became a huge demon form. And when he fell, many, many, many fruits of the tree fell on the ground and got the fruits. Now, who or what is that Vatsasur? So, Vatsa means attachment, right? Attachment. So, see how the following of the asuras, huh? So attachment comes from, then, see, the materialism then there was. Yeah. And then the attachment to the objects, right? Because I think my happiness comes from them. And so that's why Vatsasura took that form. So the calf, it was very attached to its mother, right, for the milk, and the calf represents the attachment between anything, right? And so, but Bhagavan is showing us through this, so the mamatvam, right, the mindness, so he shows that by removing that, actually, then there again, the fruits, all the fruits of the trees became available when the mamatvam was removed. Because normally we'd think, a calf, why did Krishna kill a poor little calf, But no. It was showing also that attachment can look innocent, right? But it all depends on, yeah, if it's attachment, it's attachment. So it can hold me back, it can hold the other person back. Various forms, right? Because it can take all kinds of forms. Yeah. Anger, et cetera, et cetera. So, give up attachment and all things will become available to us. And also, could mention here that it is said that, in the Rama avatar, Lord Rama could only worship the cows. He wasn't allowed to serve them. So now Sri Krishna wanted to come and serve the cows. The cows are mother. They're so divine. All right. Now, that wasn't the end of the Asuras. So one or another challenge keeps coming, right? So now, Rama and Krishna, who are really the Sarva Lokaika Palaka, guardians of the worlds, now went about as the guardians of the small calves. And they would start from home early in the morning, with their little packets of food for their lunch, and would take the calves out to the pasturing grounds. And one day, they, along with the cowherd boys, Gopas, stopped by a lake to drink water. First they let the calves drink, and then they went. There they saw this huge crane. Like here, I don't know if there's cranes, but there's herons, right? Herons. And they appear to be, they're standing by the edge of the water, and they look like yogis. They look like yogis. They're still. But their mind is on fishy business, as Guruji says. Mind is on fishy business. And then they get their prey. Now there was this huge bird there, and his name was Bhagasur. And Balaramji and the other boys became really paralyzed when they saw Sri Krishna go up to him, and the bird grabbed him, and the bird, Sri Krishna went into his throat, and the others were just like when you're shocked and your breath seems to go out of you. It just freezes. But Sri Krishna inside his throat became hot. He became burning like the Bhagasur felt his throat was like a fireball. And coughed him out. And Sri Krishna, as soon as he was out, he took the two beaks of Bhagasur and split him in two. Now, Krishna killed the attacking monster crane, an ally of Kamsa, by tearing it asunder by its two beaks. For him, it was as easy as splitting a blade of grass. And all the celestials were raining down flowers on him, as we know. Often comes as rain, the end of a yajna, right? Everything Bhagavan does is a yajna, because it's always for the welfare of all beings. And all the prana came back into the cowherd boys, and they went and embraced Sri Krishna. And with their hearts melting in the intensity of their affection and eyes unsatisfied, meaning they were never satisfied by looking at him. They wanted to keep looking at him. They gazed on him intently, considering him as one restored to life by the jaws of praising him, and said that all these monsters who have come to kill them, they have ended up dying. How is this happening? But of course, Brahman can't be burnt, wet, round, cut by any weapon, cannot be destroyed in any way. Who is this Bakasur? Huh? Yes. And a point that goes along with that is that, see, Bakasur was actually a brother of Utana and Shakatasur. So the word Vak was also associated with Bakasur. Ba and Va. So speech, through speech, that pretentiousness. Yeah. So that pretentiousness, looking like a yogi, but but on fishy business, right? And so it said that pretending to be something that I'm not, or sometimes we see on the news or whatever, someone who's huge donation or something, but they do it, in order to get what are the photo op and things like that. So, and see that Vak, the sound coming from the throat, and Bhagavan, when he got into his throat, it became like fire. So, fiery speech, right? Fire, that's how we use this description for fiery speech. So that burns away. I know a song, there's a fire that burns away the lies, manifesting in the spiritual eye. So truth burns up. Truth is burns up. Falsehood. And so his two beaks represent that dualism or duality of saying one thing and being another. I shouldn't say in others because, we're supposed to be looking at ourselves, yes. But, okay, politicians, they seem to be one thing, and then we find out later something else. So, okay, now everyone, the gopis are saying, and especially Nanda Maharaj says, what Garga Rishi said, everything is coming true. That he's protecting us from all these demons. Whenever they would think of Sri Krishna and Balaramji, all their thoughts of suffering in the world or difficulties would just vanish. So the two divine children spent their early childhood in Vraja. Oh, another meaning too. In the Gita, right? The devotee goes beyond the Shabda Brahman, word Brahman. Goes beyond the words. The words, is it Kenopanishad? This is words go there and come back. Cannot reach, cannot express that because it's beyond speech. Because that which we are, Atman, Brahman, is that which is enabling speech and living speech. It's beyond it. Now, another story. So before another story comes, so Shukadev continues on the childhood leelas of Krishna and Balaram with the Gopas. And also says how blessed these children who get to play with them as if ordinary, as if they're ordinary children. The merits of them must be indescribable. Now, Sri Krishna, one day, got up early, and he would wake up all the other cowherd boys by blowing his cow horn, his cow horn. Right? And this day he didn't take Balaram. You'll see why later. So, in the company of all the other cowherd boys, they would go with their sticks and their horns and their flutes and their sacks of, not sacks, but lunch packs of curd rice and other things. And the calves numbering over 1,000. And even though their mothers would decorate them before they would go out, still, they'd put leaves and peacock feathers and decorate themselves with mineral paints. And they would catch somebody's lunch packet and throw it to another friend. And then that one would run there, and then that friend would throw it over there and there and there. And until the little boy would get tired. And then they would laugh and give them the lunch packet. So all these things. And they would imitate different animals of the forest, different birds, making sounds of that animal. They would sometimes pull monkeys' tails and imitate their grimaces. And they would jump from branch to branch of a tree and thus engage themselves in music. I remember Guruji saying, enjoy your children. Enjoy their childhood leelas like that, because it only lasts that long. So Shukadeva says, those boys of exceeding merit did thus play with him who appeared as Brahmasuka to the knowing ones, as deity to those moved by devotion, and as a mere human child to those in the grip of Maya. How can one describe their good fortune and the fortune of the inhabitants of Vrindavan? Which even the yogis, the dust of whose feet the yogis failed to attain, even through austerities. So, now, this one day, when Sri Krishna went out without Balaramji, there was another asura, Aghasur. And Agha means sin. And he came in the form of a python. Gigantic. Actually says he was miles long. He was the embodiment of Agha. And how that sin is expressed was jealousy. And jealousy expresses as he couldn't stand to see happiness in others. And there's a lot to say about that, but we'll come back. So, unable to bear the sight of the delightful sports of these children, he was coming, and he waited for them. Huge mouth. And he was also sent by Kamsa. And as the cowherd boys, they would often run ahead of Sri Krishna, or they would race each other. They would compete with each other to touch him first. Right? And because when they would touch him, they would go ruthless. But this one time they were ahead of him, and they saw this unusual form as if they were looking into a huge cavern. And it's like a tremendous python. with and those, what do you say, pits in the cavern look like his molars, and this looks like his mouth, the top of his mouth, mountains, and red. It looks like a red road. Red road is like a tongue. So they were seeing, but it was so huge that they thought, oh, this is no problem. But it's just cavern, huge cave, cavern, mountains above it. And they were laughing, and inside the cavity, the view is deep darkness, right? And the air coming out of that deep cavern, it's like dead. It's just like the breath of a snake with dead, food inside, dead animals inside. And so they thought it had a striking resemblance to Python, Ajagara. Is that right, Fernanda? Aja or Aja? Ajagara, that's right. Ajagara, which actually, that means one who can swallow a goat. Something as big as a goat. And look, friends, let's go check this out. Let's see what it really is. So, as they were describing it, and they ran ahead of Sri Krishna. And then they thought, even if there's something untoward there, if there's something dangerous, but our Sri Krishna is here with us. We'll be fine. And so, without thinking anymore, they ran ahead, and they found themselves deep in the cavernous mouth of this gigantic python. See, at least they had the faith in Krishna, but they ran ahead without thinking. As one writer says, we often run ahead of Bhagavan's will, right? We run ahead because I think I know better. And so now, the Lord, who was standing outside, he became very concerned that his friends are now deep into the mouth of this serpent. And he understood that it was really a serpent, that it wasn't a rope. Right? It was a real serpent. And that the boys had ignorantly taken fact for fancy. Fancy for fact. But anxious to save them, he wanted to stop them from going any further. And before he could do that, however, the boys and the calves entered into the monster's mouth. But instead of swallowing them immediately, Aghasur wanted to wait for Krishna, because that's the one he was after. And out of his compassion, Bhagavan's compassion for his friends, he went in to the mouth of Aghasur. He thought, I must save my friends. The all-seeing Hari entered into the python's mouth. And Vedas, it says, so everything is connected. Right? So actually these things are experienced by all beings, especially of a Now, Krishna, inside the mouth of Aghasur, the deathless one, Ajaha, see, Ajagara also, Ajaha means unborn, grew in size in the throat of Aghasur, but Aghasur had closed his mouth. So how was Bhagavan going to get out now? But Sri Krishna began to grow and grow and grow in size, and finally he pushed out through the top chakra, Sahasra chakra, burst open that passage, and Aghasura's eyes were rolling and rolling as the breath, all his prana, breath went out the top of his head, and Sri Krishna came out, and he revived all the calves and the cowherd boys who had actually, been poisoned by the toxicants, what do you call them? That breath even of Aghasura was poisonous. And so Sri Krishna revived them, and by his look, and came out all through the mouth of that dead monster. And now what happened? Sri Krishna now was outside, and the soul, the Atma of Aghasura, see, he liberated him totally, because everything, prana, everything went out through the Sahasra. And that brilliance was seen in the air, and it hovered for some time, and then actually there's no coming or going, but it's showing here, yeah, that jivahood, that individual consciousness itself dissolved. All Atmas, they're not all Atmas. There's Atma and there's Brahman, but they're not two things. Atma is Brahman. So, again, even Aghasura, who was sin itself, was liberated. And as Krishna says, even the most sinful who worships me with devotion to none else, he too is regarded as sadhu, saintly. Of course, this was even more than just resolved. He was finished. Samsara was finished. Because sin or papa is only a mistake of identity. When that mistake is dissolved, it's nothing. And also, Kandananaji says, and we know this, that both merit and demerit are, substratum of both is the pure self. So, there's neither ultimately. So, and Bhagavan says, as in Gita, surrender all dharmas unto me, and I will liberate thee from all sins. Says, I think it was for this story, he says, we should keep Bhagavan's name in our mouths, not his form. I mean, we always want to keep his name in our mouth, right? Speaking his name. Yeah. It's just a way of saying that. Okay. So, of course, we see here pure Vedanta and the rope and the snake. And where the children, the gopas, mistook what was actually dangerous for something that was not. and vice versa. So Krishna is the reality behind that superimposition. Okay. So we switch it off. Yeah. Okay. Now, why did Sri Krishna leave Balaramji behind that day? Do you know why? So what was Aghasura in the form of? Huh? Not the symbolism. What was his actual form? Python. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the saints say that an asura will never come in the form of a snake if Balaram is there, right? So Shri Krishna left him behind, Balaramji behind, so that because he knew he was going to come, right? Because we see it later also in Galia. Galia story. Balaram is there that day. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I could add here that, that Balaramji also represents that inner strength, inner spiritual strength and determination, both determination to reach our goal, right? Because that coiled up is the form of Seshanaga, right? So the coiled up power represents many things, but one is subjectively that strength that it takes, and the strength, I may have mentioned this before, that inner strength to pull our mind inward. It's a lot of strength. Yeah. It takes a lot of energy and effort. To do it for a few minutes, okay. Well, not okay, not easy still. But then it wants to go out because why? It takes the most effort to bring the mind inward. So Balaramji represents that inner guru. I think it's Aganananji who says that. And then Sri Krishna is the outer, pushes us inward. Yeah. And he's love, pure love, divine love. And I love that saying that, Bhagavan took this avatar of, pure love and pure beauty, because Bhagavan doesn't just want to remain as the subject, because we won't recognize him. Our senses are outward anyway. He becomes the object. And then our senses, mind, become completely absorbed in him who is. And so there's no inside or outside. He who, as Mother Yashoda bound him who has no inside or outside, who cannot be bound at all. In whom there is no bondage or liberation. Is. So, now, this Shukadev tells King Parikshit, now this story, or this Leela, this incident of Aghasur, was not told by the cowherd, the Gopa boys, not told to their parents, the village, until a year later. A year later. And King Parikshit asked, well, how can that be? Yeah, because immediately they want to tell, right? Why? How did that happen? we shall have to see next time. And so there's a reason for that. Very, very wonderful story coming. And I'm going to attempt, actually I was going to do another one earlier. Since we have time, can I do two? Just so you hear, I don't know if you've heard, this is from the Vaishnava tradition, Damodarashtakam. So I'm just going to do, no, not the same. Yeah. But, this is done, I guess particularly, I don't know what the name is for the month. We would call it October, but Karthik, okay. So it's actually November, right, this year. So this Leela, so this is, yeah. So, but this is, sorry, in reference to his stealing, I shouldn't say, his sharing the butter and yogurt, and Mother Yashoda tying him to the mortar. I'll just read a couple, and I'm only going to sing 4 verses. It's 8, actually 8. So, to the Supreme Lord, whose form is the embodiment of eternal existence, knowledge, and bliss, whose shark-shaped earrings are swinging to and fro, who is beautifully shining in the divine realm of Gokul, who, having broken the pot of yogurt his mother was churning into butter, and then stealing the butter that was kept hanging from a swing, he is quickly running from the wooden grinding mortar in fear of Mother Yashoda, but who has been caught by her, who ran after him with greater speed. Here is also Ganesha, right? Sitting still, he runs faster, and running, he sits still. But here in Bhagavad Leela, he's caught by his devotee's love. Yeah? To that Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances. And but you'll just hear the beauty of them. I'll just do my best here, okay? Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashoda Biolukala Davamanam Paramrishtamatyantato Dritya Gopya Rudantam muhurnetra yugmam lejantam karamboja yugmena satam kanetram muhushvasakam patrirekam kakanta stita graivam damodaram bhaktibharam. Seventh verse. Kuberatmajau badham mutyaiva yadvat tvaya muchitau bhakti bhajau kritau cha tatha prema bhaktim swakamne prayacha namokshe graho mesti damodareha. Namaste studamne spuradipti damne twadhiya dharayat shvasar damne Namo Radhikaya Tvadiyapriyaya Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namo Radhikaya Tvadiyapriyaya Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Shri Krishna Chandra Bhagavan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki Jai, Shri Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Radhe Radhe Shyam. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yeah. You got it?